Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm Anthony Tezak. The men and women who have donned the uniform of our country and served our nation in the cause of freedom are deserving of our honor and respect. That's why House Republicans have made passing legislation that aids veterans and active duty servicemen and women a top priority. Here to discuss some of the bills that have made their way through the House benefiting those who have served in the military, and to talk about how one war veteran in his district received a long overdue honor, is State Representative Ryan Mackenzie. Welcome, Representative.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and speak with you about veterans. And your introduction there was absolutely correct. We really do owe a great debt of gratitude to our veterans for their service to our country. And so in the legislature, we try and honor them in a number of ways with different pieces of legislation that not only recognize their service, but also help make their lives easier now that they're back in the country and living a private life. But as you mentioned also, we had the opportunity to meet with a special individual, which I look forward to telling you his story. It's a really interesting and unique one.
Why don't we start there then? You have a constituent in your district by the name of Bert Windsor, who served in World War II. And now this gentleman had a really special story. He was going to be given a special honor, and he actually accidentally hung up on the woman offering it to him. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this was an individual. He lives in the district that I represent, the 134th, and so he was Private First Class Bert Windsor, and he served in World War II and served in the European theater in a number of different locations, saw combat, saw action in Italy and some other locations, received the Purple Heart, and he was part of the Devil's Brigade, a real special forces unit, and really just a terrific individual in addition to being a courageous and honorable veteran, just a terrific person, and had the opportunity to meet with him at the event. But what happened was when Senator Toomey was going to be presenting the Congressional Gold Medal to Private Windsor's division and unit there. And what happened was an individual, an ambassador to the Army, recognized that Bert had not received the Bronze Star. And so it was really an opportunity to recognize him for his service. The Bronze Star is the fourth highest medal that can be awarded in the military for valor in service. And so the senator had taken it upon himself and his staff to go out and make sure that Bert received that award. And so this event, which we held recently at the VFW post in Mackenzie, was to present Bert with that award. And I was able to read a declaration from the Secretary of the Army and present that award to Bert. So it was a real honor, something that is long overdue, obviously, and well-deserved. And so it was really a pleasure that we were able to complete that and get that medal to Bert there.
It's a really interesting story. A gentleman 90 years old, and it's a great example of your state officials working with our officials in Washington, D.C. to make sure this got done.
That's correct. Absolutely. It was certainly something that Senator Toomey took the lead on and did a great deal of work to make sure that Private Windsor was able to receive his medal. And really, another thing that I want to point out is this was something that Bert wasn't even looking for. He wasn't asking for it. So that really shows the selflessness of the individual and also of all our military forces. All the veterans out there who have served, they aren't looking to do this for the medals or for themselves. It's really for our country. And so, when Senator Toomey was able to track down this award for him and be able to receive it for Bert, I was able to just be there to present it. So really it was an honor to be there, and something that was one of the items that I'm going to look back on in my legislative career and say that that was a real highlight for me.
And really unique too, because of the 1,800 people in his brigade, he is one of only 6 surviving Pennsylvanians, correct?
That's correct. And so his brigade was made up of Americans and Canadians, and but he's only one of 6 Pennsylvanians left. That's correct. And so all the time, unfortunately, we lose more and more of our World War II veterans, but the greatest generation still lives on, certainly in individuals like Private Windsor, But also, there were a lot of veterans who were there and active duty military members who were there for the presentation. And you can really see in all of those individuals the respect and admiration they have for the greatest generation. They have left a tremendous legacy, which everybody else is upholding now. So really a great honor to be there.
Now, I got to imagine, we know House Republicans are very supportive of our men and women serving overseas, and seeing something like this firsthand has to make you want to do just as much more, everything you can in the House for these people. So why don't we talk about some of the bills that have passed the House that are going to help support the veterans. And one of that is House Bill 88, which talks about National Guard leave. Can you tell us a little bit about the bill and what it does?
Yeah, so what House Bill 88 does is it clarifies the current law, and it regards leaves of absence for members of our National Guard, stating that a 15-day leave of absence is applied in 24-hour increments. And so this is very important because sometimes shifts are broken up over days. Obviously, they might have a longer shift, and so it might span over the course of a number of days there. But so breaking it up into 24-hour days is a really important thing for us, so that they receive the proper credit for their service and their time. And then also making sure that they're not required to return to duty within 18 hours of being relieved of federal or state active duty. And so again, just really making sure that they can transition from the National Guard to their regular employment, do it very easily and seamlessly, and make sure that it's not a burden on them.
And there's also been House Bill 107, which is introduced, and that has to do with military education consideration. What is that about?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really important piece of legislation. So oftentimes for certifications, things like EMS, there is not a requirement in place that military experience or certifications are taken into account. And so this would require that at least we take those things into consideration. And it wouldn't, in certain cases, it wouldn't be a complete exemption from other standards that are held in the private sector for certain education requirements or training requirements. But at the same time, it would require that we do look at those things. They have unique experiences, and sometimes even more experience than is required for these certain certifications that we hold in the private sector and in emergency services positions. And so recognizing their experience and their training in the military would be something that would again help them more seamlessly transition back to regular life here. And unfortunately, we see a much higher rate of unemployment amongst veterans than we do amongst the population as a whole. And so again, making sure that they can transition back to a regular job after their service is critical, and this would help do that.
There's another bill that will also help veterans transition back into the working sector, and that is a veterans job tax credit. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so it would establish a $4,000 annual tax credit to taxpayers that hire veterans to work at small businesses. And so we know small businesses are the engine that drives our economy forward, and if we can provide an incentive for them to hire veterans, that's a real win-win for everybody involved.
Additionally, it seems that the House Republicans are also trying to give tuitions assistance to veterans if they want to help further their education. How does that work?
Yeah, and so what it would do is it would provide, there's a House Bill 472, and it would provide in-state tuition for community colleges and state-related, state-owned institutions for military and civilian personnel, as well as their spouses and dependent children, and it would really be a huge boom of assistance for them, just because oftentimes they move from state to state, and so they can't establish the residency requirements that are sometimes necessary to receive in-state tuition. And so this would just be something to recognize them and hopefully help retain them here in Pennsylvania. If they're here serving in our state, we'd like to see them, after their active duty, stay here in Pennsylvania. And so this might be something that would make it more likely that they could stay. And if not, we'll at least make sure that they're receiving the same types of in-state tuition that other Pennsylvania residents are.
And there's another piece of legislation that you support that will actually help ensure that veterans get priority when it comes to registration. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and so this is just something that we can do to recognize our veterans and make sure that they get priority recognition when they're enrolling in classes. And so just something that would be beneficial to them. Again, they have maybe taken a leave from college. Maybe they've taken, they're coming back and they'd like to obtain their degree or an advanced degree, and they've interrupted and disrupted their lives enough by having to take sometimes prolonged leaves from home or college or work. And so if we can give them priority enrollment, just a nice positive to make sure that they can, again, get back on track and get back on with their lives after they've done so much for us. This is just something small that we can do for them.
And finally, we've heard a lot about post-traumatic stress disorder and the other challenges that veterans face when coming back from war. And there's been a bill that is going to help make sure that these veterans get the help that they deserve. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's correct. So House Bill 43 allows psychiatrists, psychologists, and counselors to provide free and volunteer, but they can obtain a volunteer license and provide free counseling for these individuals. And so it's known as a program called Give an Hour, and it's just something nice that, again, individuals who are willing to volunteer their time can do so and give back to military professionals who may need some special assistance in those instances. And so, again, when you look at all the things that we're doing on the business front, on the education front, on the mental health front to help volunteers, again, we're trying to take a comprehensive approach to help veterans and, again, recognize them for their service, but also help them because they have unique challenges sometimes when they come back from service. Again, they've maybe disrupted their education, disrupted their professional career, but they've done it all in service to our country. And so we need to make sure that they have as few speed bumps when they come back into private life as possible. And so all of these things are things that we can do to help them.
It seems like you and your colleagues in the Republican caucus are doing an excellent job with that. All of these bills that we've talked about, I do want to note, they have passed the House and currently they're awaiting action in the Senate. Representative Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining us here today and talking to us about veterans and how you are doing your best to help them out.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
That's all the time we have for today's program. If you have a question about today's topics or any other state government-related matter, please feel free to contact Representative Mackenzie at his local office or through his website. The address and phone number will be shown in just a moment. Thanks again for watching, and please join us next time for another edition of Legislative